Hi, I'm Clark on Temptress. Today we're going to continue our search for the best inexpensive lithium iron phosphate batteries available. Today's candidate is the REDODO 100 amp hour Mini, and it's tiny. I'm Clark. I sail around the world. I do videos about technical stuff. I'm also an engineer, and I developed this thing called the BankManager that lets you bring some lithium into your existing lead system, get it all to work together, and charge these guys the way they should be charged. Well, in doing that and selling these things, I'm selling them to people that don't own lithium and want to buy lithium, and they ask me, what batteries should I buy? And up till now, my answer has been, I don't know. I don't think you should buy the most expensive ones because they're the most expensive. I think we should find a good deal. So I'm going through the reasonably priced for performance lithium ion battery that are available out there. I'm bringing them in and I'm going to tear them apart, and we're going to find out what they look like inside and how they function. Today we're going to talk about this. It is the REDODO 100 amp hour Mini. It's downright cute. This thing is just tiny. It's probably just a tad taller, but a whole lot narrower. It's a very, very small footprint. I've got a couple motives here. One is that we're going to find good batteries. We're going to find the diamonds in the rough. We're going to find the junk. We're going to figure all that out. But the other thing is, a lot of these batteries, they're putting them in great big cases, even though they're really small, and selling a bunch of foam, and then you have to carry that foam around with you for the life of the battery. So you battery producers, we want small cases. We want the case to just fit the battery. You can get a lot more battery in the same space if you're not putting a bunch of foam in that space. And I think REDODO did a great job with this. We're going to tear it apart and find out really if there's any extra space, but I can't imagine it any bigger, any smaller than this. On Temptress right now, and I'm going to up the number because I've got batteries coming in, but we've been surviving now for 3 years with 200 amp hours of lithium, and we run an air conditioner all night. This would be half the batteries we're using for the whole boat. This little thing. Anyway, I'm impressed with this. As of July 10th, 2023, this is how much it cost on Amazon. These are the dimensions and the weight. And like I said, small. Like all the batteries in this series, I don't buy them myself. I want you to know my motivation. REDODO sent me this to do the review. They don't pay me to do the review, and I don't get a direct kickback that I don't tell you about. So here's me telling them about that. If you go to the description below, you'll see a link to a table. We call it the leader list, and it's all the batteries I'm reviewing and all the dimensions side by side, so you can find out the good and the bad and what fits your requirements. At the end, there'll be a way to buy them. Usually that's a link to their Amazon store. If you buy anything through Amazon, we get a little kickback. Also, occasionally you'll see a battery that is using an affiliate link where I do get a direct kickback from the sale. The only reason I say yes to an affiliate link when someone sends it to me is because it comes with a coupon so that you make a savings. So it'll be the link to how you can buy the battery the lowest price. This is the second REDODO battery I've reviewed. I had their 200 amp plus, and so far, nicest battery on the inside, I think. So I'm going to assume they're going to do a good job inside. We're going to tear this apart. We're going to know for a fact in a minute, so I won't dwell on that. Other thing about REDODO is their manuals are really well done. They come in this setup here, and this particular one came with loads of stickers. Don't care for stickers, but a little quick reference card, and then their product manual. Their product manuals are, you wouldn't believe it's a Chinese company. They're well thought out, and they're obviously written by someone that speaks English as their first language. So anyway, good on them for that little extra effort. This case looks very waterproof. It looks very well sealed. Has nice handle on it that folds down, which is part of the whole Mini thing. Because if they can make that go, in fact, you can take the strap right off easy enough. If the strap was the biggest thing on, that's using up some space. They're trying to make it small. I love that. I'm really anxious to see what's inside this one. So I'm going to pop it apart, and then we're going to play with it electrically and find out how it functions while we have access to the cells and we can get inside. Well, I've got it apart. After last video review where I kind of let some smoke out, I was a little more conservative, and I used a sharp chisel and a light hammer and just cut this out. I'm glad I did, because I look in here and they epoxied the case together and it's a really serious seam. It would have been difficult to get it apart in a recoverable way. So we'll just sacrifice this lip. But really all I think I need is some strapping tape and some tape around it, maybe some silicone, and it's good as new. So this battery will get into somebody's boat and serve them well. It's interesting. Let's open it up and figure out how they got it so small. It is really, really a small battery. I just realized also I still have my watch on. Let's get this off. All right, let's go inside. Okay, yeah, this is going to come out okay. Oh, that's different. Would you look at that? It's using the envelope type batteries and a bunch of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay, so it has 4, I guess they would be 25 amp hour envelopes in groups, and 4 of those. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's the same chemistry. It just doesn't have the big plastic case around it. I have heard that when you use the envelope batteries, they benefit greatly from compression, so that if they get internal pressure, they don't distort themselves. And look, they've done that. They have a very skookum plate on both sides and a couple rods compressing them. Man, I don't think you could get, with the same technology, any smaller of a case than this. This is the right way. This is good. I'm happy with that. I am looking at it saying, how the heck am I going to get the intercell voltages? Oh, I know what I'll do. Okay, up here in the top, we've got the BMS, of course, and then this is the cell sensing wire that comes up from all the cells. So after I do the heavy charge, bring it way up, let the BMS shut off that I do, I'll pull this apart and I'll put a sensor in there, because it really doesn't look like I'm going to want to try to disassemble the BMS from the batteries. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay, so the next step is we're going to charge this thing too much. I've already charged it with the BankManager, so it's at 100%. And now we're going to charge it until this guy shuts down. Well, we're going to hook this up to Temptress's ability to put out controlled power, and we're going to charge it up until the BMS cries uncle, and then we'll see what the heck's going on inside. I'll put my fluke here on the same thing so we can watch the voltage in real time. You should be able to see that. So, negative, positive. So right now it's at 13.44. Take the charge source here. It makes me jump every time it sparks when I hook it up, because this has big capacitors in it. And this is a battery. There we go. There's my spark. We'll charge it at 5 amps because that's all I can do. And we'll let it set. This will take a little while. So that didn't take very long. It finished up its charge at 14.54 volts. Assuming its BMS, as most of them are, that shut down at 14.6, or the 1/4 per cell of 14.6. It looks like the cells are in pretty close alignment, but we won't really know until we check. Let's check the cell balance. What else should we check at this time? Oh, while I was waiting, I'm looking at the wire. 6-gauge wire on the positive side. They use 2 wires on the negative side, and I bet they add up to the same amount of copper, because, you know, why would they do it differently? But if it's not up to the task, when we throw 100 amps through this, we'll know, because the wires will get hot. Let's find out when it shut off. So I'm going to take this and unhook the sensor probes. Oh, I got a lot of goo on this. There we go. So now I've got this little little plug, and since I decided to do this, I rigged these up while we were, you know, charging the battery. If I shove these probes into these little holes, I'll be looking right at each pack of battery, and we can find out what voltage they shut down at. Also, vitally, vitally, vitally important, I don't cross the beams here. I don't short these wires together because there's nothing protecting and it'll just go pop. Okay, 3.368 for the first one, 3.50 for the second one, 3.508 for the third one, and 3.44 for the last one. Those are pretty close. When you're up here at full charge like this, this is where they spread apart from each other. Yeah, I think that's close enough. I think that's good. Remember, if you charge them properly, you don't overcharge them like this till the BMS shuts down. They'll all be closer together when they're in the middle. It's that hockey stick part where they spread apart. But that's the only time we can really know how balanced they are. It's also possible the cell balancer has actually been working here for a while, cleaning things up, because it's been, I don't know, 3 minutes since I finished the charge. And how they work is they just take the high cells and throw a resistor across them, kind of bringing them down. But it's a very small resistor, has to be, because these wires are really small, and then it just kind of slowly balances the cells. Next step is we take this into the aft cabin, I hook it to our big inverter, and we make it work. We're going to pull some real power out of it and see how it stands up to running its full spec of 100 amps. All right, I think I got everything set up now. And once again, whoever suggested the air conditioner back here, you've saved me. So thank you so much. This used to be the hottest, most miserable part of these jobs. So we have our battery hooked up to a 3 kilowatt inverter. The inverter is currently powering a laptop. Emily's in the other room working, but we're going to add to it enough of this to bring it up pretty darn close to 100 amps. Let's take a little look at the device. Take a look there. It's actually cooler than the environment because, well, it's hotter back here. But it's really close. Looks like it's 87 degrees and the background's around 90. Well, that's about changed because we are going to draw some power. So let's hit it. I've got the volts here being read at 13.16. I did run it for just a second. That knocked down the surface voltage. That's why it's not 13.2. And we're drawing 6.7 amps. But let's juice that up. I'll put this outside because it is hot in the Dominican Republic. Okay, so we've got it hovering pretty close to 100 amps. Dips down every now and again. That's good. And things are started. Okay, the voltage came down to 12.7. You know, that's actually the best so far. I've been seeing them come down to 12.6 for the good batteries and down to 12 for that one that had the dodgy bus bars. So that implies that we're not losing a lot of power in the wires, or that or at least it implies the packs are putting out a lot of power without drooping in voltage. Let's take a little peek with our camera again here. Okay, what do we see? Well, my wires, whoops, that's my finger. There we go. The wires are a little bit warm, and I'm seeing some heat come out of the heat sink. But what am I seeing? 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think that counts. That's nothing. The wires, oh, this one is the negative wire. You see how it's hotter? Let me do a little class here. There we go, my hand's in now. This is the positive wire, and it's bigger. This is the negative wire that I'm using. This is all on me. It's not quite big enough for this job, but it's what I have. Notice how it gets quite a bit hotter. And then finally we look at the BMS and we see a little bit of heat in the wire that transfers over. Well, it's gotta. That's the fan for the inverter because it's putting out some power. And we see a little bit of heat in here under the heatsink, but the heatsink hasn't even gotten warm yet. And I mean a little bit. 118, 114 volts, degrees Fahrenheit. Man, honestly, I can't tell. My 98.6 degree finger is just unable to calibrate down to that 110-ish degrees. So remember with these FLIRs, the way I've got it set up anyway, it's auto calibrating, so it will always find the hottest thing and make it look like an inferno, but you've got to go by the numbers, and that's nothing. The hottest thing, actually, look at that, the inverter. Maybe I didn't tighten that wire enough, but the inverter terminals are much hotter than the battery in any way. Yeah, it's a good deal. Okay, I think we've been going for about 2 minutes. I'm gonna let this cook for a while, and well, I'll get back to you. But all in all, initial, that looks like, man, that's a battery done right. Yeah, look at the cells, and down here, it's cooler than ambient. It's the coolest place in the boat right now. Yeah, I'd say that's good. Okay, we've been going just about 6 minutes now. Just a thought came into my mind. Notice that the voltage is 12.56 at the battery. We're drawing a lot from this. Now, this isn't about this battery so much, but if you had a BankManager set up, if you had a hybrid battery bank, this is just, there's so much about that. When I started doing the engineering, I realized as long as you let it do the good things, they were good things to happen. The physics were just lined up to have that be the right answer. Well, here's an example. If you took everything that a lithium battery is supposed to give out of that lithium battery, in every case, even in this case, the voltage drops below 12.8. Well, if you have a lead hooked up in parallel, that's being floated up and all that good stuff. When you draw this, like all the power you should draw out of a battery, and the voltage drops below 12.8, the lead says, hey, let me give you a hand. So in real world terms, let's say you had a big microwave and it pulled 110 or 150 amps at 12 volts, you know, to run the microwave. That's a lot. It's more than the lithium should put out. But likely, and you'd have to check this yourself, when the lithium dropped down to probably more like 12 volts, or would have, the lead is there at 12.8 and it starts supplying. So likely it would supply those extra 50 amps. Just kind of magic happens that way. When you draw more than lithium is comfortable with, the voltage goes down and the lead is there. So if you got a lot of lead or starter battery lead, thin plate lead, it's on the spot. This goes for things like bow thrusters and windlasses, those pulse loads that is too much for the lithium. If the lead is there, most likely it'll be there. I can't promise that. You're going to have to run your own tests, and it has to do with the size of your wire and the size of your batteries and all kinds of stuff. I just want to talk about it because it interests me a lot. Okay, let's give this a go now with the FLIR. It's been running for, let me check my camera, 9 minutes, a little over. So it's hotter. It's up to 140 in the crack. I can definitely feel the heat. It's not burning my hand or anything, but I can feel it. It's warm. But we have been asking for it to put out, well, now we're up to 108 amps for quite an extended period. We've used up, let's see, about a fifth of the power of the battery out through this. So there's no way this could go on for, you know, an hour at this rate. In fact, I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I'm 10% over. Just turning down my heat gun a little bit. Wish my heat gun was better at turning up and down. Okay, there we go. So I'll let it go until it's 15 minutes and then I'll stop the test and call it, but looks good so far. Well, that's been a tad over 15 minutes. Let's take a look at the heat. 143 degrees, and yeah, I can definitely feel it. Ow. That doesn't bother me that much. I think it's well within, you know, tolerances. We've been drawing, well, we were drawing pretty close to 100 amps. I had it cranked up a bit from when I shut it down, you know, shut down the camera. But I think Emily's computer just finished charging, so that took some of the load away. So it's been at 100 amps most of the 15 minutes. It's been, well, let's check the camera. It's been 16 minutes now, so I'm going to shut down the heat gun. Oops, before I shut down the heat gun, you guys know because you can look at the video, I have to look back. Okay, so the voltage is 12.63. You know, you've seen other of these videos, and if you haven't, go down to the description, and there's a table. I call it the leaderboard, and it's all the batteries I review, and they're all put in one place with links to the actual reviews and where you can buy them at the best price and all that good stuff. But you know, it describes the good and bad points of each one. If you go through the other videos, you'll see that this one is holding the voltage high better than any battery has in this test, and that says a lot. That goes right to efficiency, and it talks about resistance within the cells and resistance, you know, in its wiring. As I said earlier, this uses a different kind of cell. It uses these envelope cells, I think they're called. They're kind of in like little mylar envelopes, and a lot of them. And I think because of that, having a lot of cells in parallel, well, for whatever reason, the voltage is staying high. And when your voltage is high, remember the watts the battery puts out is volt times amps. So when your voltage has to sag for whatever reason, that's using up power to make heat and not to make whatever you want to go around, in my case, a heat gun. So I think this is good. What's the downside of these envelope cells? Well, don't touch them with a knife. You know, any little pinprick and they're gone. But they're inside of a very skookum plastic box, so I don't think you have to worry about that at all. All in all, I like this. I'll get into the final when we talk about them, but I'm liking the battery a lot. It's got different advantages and different disadvantages, but what it has going for it, it really does. Okay, let's take this back to the table and get to the next phase. All right, well, you know, it did really well back there. We'll get more to that in the evaluation. Next phase is we grab the BankManager and we give it another charge up to normal full. I'll do this off camera, of course, but once it's charged, then I'm going to go through a discharge cycle, and that takes 10 hours. So I'll talk to you in a little more than 10 hours. So after charging this up with the BankManager to the true 100%, not like till damage happens, we've run the discharge cycle, and I found that it gave me 103.3 amp hours. That's great. We pay for 100, we're getting 103. I'm happy there. Cells. This uses a stack of pouch cells. We've been seeing the plastic case type cells. There's nothing wrong with the pouch cells. And in fact, I'm going to say this implementation is better. The pouch cells need support, but that's what these two big plates are, and these compression struts, they're holding them in. I've seen numbers where pouch cells have a much longer life if they're held under slight compression. So that's great. Mostly about the cells, and this is a combination of the cells and whatever they're using for bus bars in here to hook to the BMS. This battery, if you remember from our 100 amp output test, slumped in voltage the least of anything. That basically comes down to the resistances in the pack are less, and these cells are putting out a lot of power. I also noticed that when I did the discharge, it seemed to stay at high voltage longer before it slumped down. It might have just been my interpretation because, you know, you don't see these things side by side, but it felt like it was holding the voltage up. That also showed in the fact that the battery put out 1,338 watt hours, instead of, well, what's it rated at here? 1,280. Part of that was the extra 3 amp hours it put out, but the other part is it held its voltage up nice and high until the end. Anyway, cells, great. Build quality. This guy is like the other REDODO. I've been looking a little deeper since I initially talked about it. I think the big categories for this are, how does it handle thermals? We had the fence that just plain check the MOSFETs, and if they got too hot, it shut down. That was kind of like the minimum to enter and be called a BMS. This guy's like the other REDODO. It has a thermal switch here on the back. It's under some tape, and it'll turn off if anything gets too hot at the battery, and that's a step up from that. So that's great, but it doesn't get the excellent that the LiFast got, because it had actual thermal pickups and it was able to do that trick of cold weather shutdown. But if you don't need cold weather shutdown, I think this is perfectly adequate. Also, if you don't need Bluetooth reporting, I think this is perfectly adequate. So I'm going to give it a great. The case, well, you know, this is excellent. Partly it's the cells and how they organize it, but there's like no wasted space. There's some little tiny bumpers they put in here, but I think that's vitally important to keep it from actually filling the whole case, because that way, you know, something hitting it would be hitting these, and that wouldn't be good. I think they did a truly excellent job on this. I think it's everything we could ask for in a case. It's definitely the smallest one. Big points for that, REDODO. We're on boats, we have limited space. This could mean the difference between having 200 and 300 amp hours in your battery area, because this battery is so much smaller. Case, I give it an excellent. Company, REDODO, been talking to them for a while, excellent. They communicate well, at least with me. I know that's not fair because, you know, they're probably being extra nice to me. But they gave me the first battery without me promising to even do a review, just to mention it in the video. I give them some credit for that, but mostly whenever I've asked them a question, I'm getting an answer, so that's a good thing. I can't say they're all that way. Also, they got the shipping address right, and a lot of these companies haven't, and it's been quite a hassle getting the batteries into my hands. So company, excellent. Cost to value, it's not terribly expensive, also excellent. And when you tie in the size and everything, I think this is a good value for the right people. All in all, what's this battery good for? This is definitely the right answer for some people and not for others. If I was going to be on a mountaintop cabin where I don't heat it all the time, but solar panels and such, now you really need that thermal shut off when it gets cold, you know, protect yourself. But a boat in the tropics, that means nothing. I think everything else is adequate or superior here. What I'm really excited about with this battery is how little volume it uses up for the amount of power it holds. The last best, smallest compact battery was 1.9-ish watts per cubic inch. This guy is 2.7 watts per cubic inch. It's just tiny. It still blows my mind that this box would air condition our aft cabin all night, run the air conditioner all night in the tropics. This much power. It's crazy. So if your need is a lot of battery and a small amount of space, this should be really high on your list. Thanks for watching the video. I hope these are helpful. Remember, there's a description for these videos, and there's a link in the description to a table of all the reviews. And I might move things around on the table. I mean, heck, the next battery I review might be this, half the size, and I will shovel things around. So always before you buy batteries, go down and look at my other reviews and read the data off that. Thanks for watching, and bye from Temptress.